Hey, augmenters! Welcome to part 4 of our mentoring principles. We knock around and talk about how to pitch yourself when you make that initial reach out with tips from the pros, the ones who live and breathe the pitch with enthusiasm that never fades, literally 24 hours a day. The QVC Home Shopping Network. Our 3 symbols will help mentee believers use flexibility, familiarity, and timing to build anticipation and interest. Off we go.
It's pretty amazing you actually can just watch it live nonstop. They don't have doesn't matter.
Maybe there's even something to be said for QVC not having any commercials because it's just a commercial.
There's no ads, there's just one big ad.
It's all one song.
It's all one pitch. It's all one pitch.
Do you think QVC is shift work?
It's like a nursing shift. And they're on all night. Like, it doesn't stop all night long. So you have the graveyard shift, you have the early shift. They have the IC is I what is the ICU? Is the ICU like, what show is like the worst show that you're like, "Oh my god, not that one." Probably shoes? Appliances? I feel like appliances would be kind of exciting because you turn them on, you turn them off, you get to use them. Like, I feel like the apparel has gotta be the worst.
It's got to pertain to what color the apparel is. Any apparel that's beige has to be the worst. How do you get excited about that?
I actually feel like socks would be the worst.
Well, and I think I'd have to disagree, considering Bob Bowersox was crushing it for basically 20 years. So he clearly knew how to sell the socks onto him. Oh, good old Bob.
I have a lot of questions about his socks. I don't know, we can go for a long time on this, but I think we're here to talk about something else.
I don't know. I mean, this is a deep cut for the listeners on Bob Bowersox being one of the original three, not the first one talking, one of the original three QVC hosts. And if you happen to go to the website tvshoppingqueens.com, shout out, unpaid ad, like all of ours are, you can go to some 2010 posts about Bob returning to QVC. And let me tell you, the message board was fired that day.
He inspires a lot of joy, I would say, and enthusiasm, and, optimism for the future. I feel like maybe the ladies on that would want to maybe have him be their mentor. Actually, I think they wanna know where he is today. First, they wanna know where he is, and then they wanna know how he got there.
I actually have no idea what the people on that message board truly wanted. I just know that their level of intrigue and excitement was high. And that got me hyped for what we're going to be talking about now, which is this is going to be our fourth spirit guide, which is QVC. And may I quote the original statement said by John Eastman, one of the first triumvirate of hosts. He said back in, I believe, 1986 was their first year. And he said, "Welcome to QVC, your key to quality, value, convenience, period." And that's what started off and began the best run of pitching beyond, Sandy Koufax, Nolan Ryan, whatever you want to say, but the best pitch people in the business on QVC. And that's why they're our spirit guide for reaching out to somebody new, the pitch.
We sat and thought about there's nobody else. I mean, you think of, used car salesmen, you think of maybe realtors, you think of anybody who's like a phenomenal salesperson, but these people are nonstop. There are actually on my cable network, there are 13 24-hour a day, basically QVC spinoffs. And any country I've ever been to, Jimmy, I'm very lucky. I get to travel internationally. One of my favorite things to do is when I get to a hotel room, is just turn on the QVC and listen to it in Russian, or listen to it in Italian, or listen to whatever. It is the exact same pitch. Makes me want to buy whatever they're selling. Doesn't even matter.
And I can tell you that I never had that desire going into a hotel room to see what somebody wants to sell me on the television. It never even entered my mind, actually.
It will
Uh,
now. You're
so,
welcome.
so, so I had a wonderful learning experience about quality, value, and convenience in ways I never thought they'd be mashed together. But these folks know how to talk, And why they matter is I kind of think in a way that either you know these shopping channels through and through, or you have been influenced by them almost daily in your life. It's amazing how
Hmm.
far they permeate into our society. And just like you said, there's like 13 just alone now on your television. Remember, 30 years ago, there was only one, and now they're everywhere. It's a huge business, and there are people that even you and I didn't know, such as Mike Rowe, the host of Dirty Jobs. Trying to bring manufacturing back to America. The man of the everyman. He got his start as a QVC host, which I had no idea, and I thought that was fascinating. And it just shows that QVC is really everywhere in our lives, not just on the shoppingqueens.com message boards.
I mean, as important and phenomenal as they are, it even does expand beyond that. And do you know what, Jimmy? Way back when, you used to only be able to order things on QVC by picking up your phone and calling. They just had an 800 number, and you pressed one for the schmata, you pressed two for the knife set, you pressed three for whatever, and they would just send it to your house. And that was the only way that you got it. Now you can do it online, you can do it on your phone, you can do it, a million different ways. And also, the other thing I think, Jimmy, it's been so fun doing a deep dive on QVC with you, as a guy who probably hasn't spent a whole lot of time involved in this, is that how many celebrities and how many different people are, just like, yeah, also on QVC. I mean, what do we have? Katy Perry. We had obviously Rachel Ray. We had
Oh, what?
we had Jamie Foxx, legend. I mean, the ultimate selling sunglasses,
Yeah,
maybe
I want
something.
to be your tennis ball, Jamie Foxx, for sure. I mean, and I don't think we can skip over quite so quickly what Katy Perry is trying to sell. Her glittering slides, came out of California Girls, the music video, like through and through, right on top of the sand. So
Did you get a pair for Heather?
I I I couldn't find the right strappy wedges. The glittering slides. I thought my trip her up playing volleyball.
That's okay. I'm sure there'll be something else that'll pop up. And and what I have to say, and Jimmy, like, I am super cheap. I do not buy anything like hardly in a real store, let alone, God forbid, on QVC. I never have, but I do really enjoy a good sales pitch. I do new business, and I do sales, and there is definitely something that we have learned on the mentoring path from these folks at QVC, and there are things we have learned to do on the mentoring path with our friends at QVC. And there are things we have learned not to do. And I think we can just start thinking about our first symbol that we have found with QVC, which I think really relates back to what we're really talking about here, which is the pitch of getting a mentor. And for us, I think it's really that kind of like your favorite host. I think that's that idea of one thing of how
Hmm.
I think that's that idea of how these folks make you feel very, very, very comfortable. They make you feel like you're really part of the crowd. You're in your schmata, you're in the yard, you're in the back, you're having coffee. These are like your friends. They're making you feel really, really comfortable. And you also really relate to them. And I think, your favorite host could be Micro. Your favorite host could be, it could be, again, Katy Perry. It could be anybody, but you really feel connected to them. And I think the idea for our pitch is that you want to feel really connected to the person that you're reaching out to. You want them to feel about you the way that we feel about Katy Perry and her slides.
I think you nailed it here. It's amazing how important it is when you're reaching out to somebody that not you feel this way, but that the person who receives your message has a feeling of familiarity with you. So that means you are doing something to show that person that you are familiar, you're comfortable, you don't have teeth, you're not going to bite, and that you care about this other individual already in some way, not in a scary, not in a strange way, but just something simple. It can be a very basic compliment. If we can give an example, when you and I first met, I needed some help teaching my course at Tufts University, and was hoping to talk to some fantastic women who were CEOs. And I just so happened to come across you in my LinkedIn sleuthing. Thanks, Sherlock. And you were also a Tufts University alumni. So it was easy for me to reach out and say, hey, we're both Tufts alumni. And on top of that, I went to your website and did a whole bunch of research, and I was blown away. So my email just said, I'm really impressed with your business and everything you've done. Are you open to a quick chat to talk about how you might be able to come help some of my students? And it was what, three sentences, something like that. And it wasn't like I can tell you what you had for dinner 2 weeks ago. It wasn't like 10 years ago. It's great that you were so invested in this other business you worked for. No, no, no. It was something simple, but it showed I had put some time into and was already investing in our relationship, and therefore may be prepared to continue to do that. And that breeds that kind of sense of familiarity and coziness.
And you made me feel like I knew you. It was just a very informal, very like kind, very warm approach. It was like we could be just going to get coffee together in the in the yard with our new fall bouquet, or we could be, on our treadmills in different areas, hanging out together like the people on QVC that make you just feel like you're with your friends and you're just like hanging out, doing anything. So you definitely made me feel right away in your approach that it was super formal, but like you said, it wasn't creepy and weird, but it definitely felt like immediately you seemed like somebody. Little did I know how much time we'd end up spending talking until that never would
Totally.
have guessed, but you did come across as quite genuine, and I appreciated that.
And I think that's another important piece of this, of just this kind of comfort and familiarity. It's showing that you have a respect for the other person's time. So if you
Yes.
do show you've done too much research, that could be very off-putting. Oh, how much does this person want back from me? And at the same time, when you're comfortable with somebody else, you also know you're going to enjoy the interaction. So the other person also is usually prepared to know that you're not going to also waste your own time by spending too much time chatting about whatever and going off on tangents. So again, that kind of mutual respect and familiarity is just amazing by the QVC hosts. And what I found to be fantastic. A quote I saw about this was they were going through all these different QVC producers, and they were talking about what goes on in QVC, and there's very little turnover actually at QVC, which is really interesting in their business. They got to as big as $8.7 billion in 2016. So I can only think that
What?
now with the pandemic,
$8.7 billion? Oh my God.
yeah, I got to think with the pandemic, they are well north of 10 figures. No, 11 figures, which is
Oh my
just
gosh.
it's crazy. It's crazy. But one of these producers said, we have some of the most talented team, talking about the talent on air, the host, some of the most talented team here ever. And in quotes, because they get a lot of reps. And I think that is also a great kind of like, extra symbol here of just, hey, you're not going to have every pitch or every reach out go 100%. Don't put all your eggs or all your emotional hope behind one. Just keep getting out there and doing it, just like the QVC hosts. They're just going to keep getting out there. They're going to give them their best shot. Sometimes people aren't going to take the ball and throw it back, so just go on home. It's okay.
But sometimes they sell the diamond pendants, and sometimes people, aren't so interested. Sometimes it's not quite the right thing, or maybe the fall color is a little bit off, or the spring color is a little bit off. Exactly. And then they'll just know, all right, moving on to the next thing. So I think that is a great lesson in that you just have to keep getting out there and keep practicing. And yeah, you'll just grow over time, just like they have. That is incredible. I did not realize the revenue was that high. I am amazed. But you know what else was amazing, Jimmy? It was really amazing is this phenomenal diamond pendant that I saw that I really just had a big heart for. In fact, it had a ruby in it, which is the birthstone of people born in July.
Wow.
Fun fact. And I thought to
Okay.
myself, man, I really dig that. And but I also was a little intimidated by the price because it was quite expensive, especially for something on QVC. But what they had in this particular instance, and what I've seen oftentimes, is they have a variety of ways that you can pay. So you don't have to just drop down your card and like pay it all then. You could do 3 payments, you could do 5 payments, you could do 6 payments, you could do it online, you could do it by a check. Imagine, have you ever even heard of such a crazy thing? You
Give
could
them
do a money
options.
order. give them options. So that was something I really learned. Beside the fact I really talked myself to the fact I did not need that diamond pendant, but I really thought more about how they just are great at offering options. So one thing we talked about, when you reached out to me, you weren't like, well, you have to call me by Thursday.
Mm-mm.
Please call me Thursday at 5.
Or never speak
Here's
to
my
me
number.
again. But I think your business is great, and I think you could really help the students. But only at
But
5
here's
o'clock.
exactly when 5 o'clock on Thursday, which would have been kind of a baller move, but probably not very well received. But no, for them, so they offer some flexibility in like the time that they can talk. So I think when you're reaching out to somebody, being like, hey, do you want to talk on? I'm available this time. This time. Do you want to have a call? Do you want to pencil in a call? Do you want to have a schedule Zoom? Do you want to meet up in person? But just offering a little bit of flexibility. You don't have to offer, a million different options. I think QVC has too many options, but offering some flexibility, I think, is a great way to pitch.
I think this is so great because QVC really is all about, let's call it symbol number 2, the flex plan. So it's really about how can you bend a little bit, but not totally kowtow to whoever you're reaching out to. A tactic I always use is I'll say, Julie, I'd love to speak with you. Here's my quick compliment, and here's something that I think you would enjoy doing, together, or this is why I'm reaching out. And then I'll say, are you available next Thursday, in parentheses, date, at 5 p.m. Eastern time? I understand that might not work. So here are two time chunks on Thursday morning and that next Monday that I'm also available if something works better for you. Done. So it gives somebody the opportunity to respond with, yes, call me then, because that simple flexibility of being able to have an email response that's literally four words goes a long way in getting responses and setting up calls. And you're then also giving all this free time available to the other person that they can be flexible and say, oh, wow, they've also given me 2 days and 12 free hours that I could fit something in. The person's not going crazy and like opening up their entire calendar to me, but at the same time, that can be very helpful to say, hey, I'm just looking for 10 or 30 minutes. Let's just put something on the books. So that's a tactic I always use. Is there something in particular that you like as well?
I love that. And the other thing, I have now recently have a link to my calendar. So I will
Mm,
sometimes say, here's a link to my calendar if it's easier for you to find time. Or, of course, I'll give 3 times and I'll say, and then as another option, if it's easier for you, here's a link to my calendar. So you can pick a time that works for you as well, which is a nifty new technology feature, whether Calendly or what have you. But I think that's great because you're offering flexibility, but you're not, going overboard. And at the end of the day, somebody might not want the diamond pendant no matter how many kind of options you offer, they might just decide that they're going to pass up this treasure for now, and that's okay too. That kind of goes back to our first point about the pitch and just making it, having some options, but not going crazy about it. So I think that's a great other point and a great thing that we've learned from QVC. However, there is something that we have learned from QVC that we don't want to do because the third
mm,
point
do tell.
that I found in my time watching QVC is that they put a lot of pressure on you. It's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a high stakes situation because
The countdown.
something that happened to me when I was watching it, and I got very anxious about this, is there was a phenomenal treadmill, the only thing I kind of considered getting. And I started watching and they had a treadmill, they had all these people on the treadmill, they were telling me how great the treadmill was, it made me really think I need it. But what happened is the countdown started and the price was really low and they only had a certain amount
So low.
and time went on and it was ticking and ticking and they were selling them and they kept the pressure, there's only a few left, the price is going to go up, and then the bell went off and there were no more treadmills. There wasn't even more treadmills, they couldn't even sell at a higher price, there was no more left. So that made me feel very panicked about I was anxious, do I want to buy that treadmill, do I not? So luckily, again, I've been very good, I just said I'm not going to buy any of this. But it made me think this is not a good tactic for pressuring people to want to meet with you. However, there was there was an element that I liked, which was that limited time idea. So again, we talk about setting time with people, but you don't want to you don't want to let it go on forever. You also don't want to put pressure on them. So some kind of a reasonable time frame makes sense. What do you think? What did you think about the
Uh,
treadmill? Were you worried about it too?
Of course, no. I was thinking about limited time frames to think about things, and that was going to be you and me next to each other on different treadmills wearing diamond pendants in our knock around schmata house dresses, trying to like go like 8-minute miles without falling on our butts. I'm like, that's a limited image. We gotta be careful with that one. So
That's the
so what
miracle.
well, I'll instead, box that up a bit. Let's not unpack that and say what I'm hearing is that our third symbol is really the magic hook. So these magic hooks are classic on QVC. You can stick them on a wall and pull them off. You're not going to damage the paint. Yay team. But what's great, because what I heard from you is that you need the hook. So you're not going to reach out to somebody on, let's say, April 1st and say, hey, are you free May 31st? 60 days is too long. So what's that time sensitivity of the hook? That's magic. That's just right. So I often find it's usually somewhere between, 3 days and 2 weeks in the future, depending upon how busy something might be. But what's critical is that you give a little bit of time sensitivity, but you don't say, I need to talk to you right now. You can't reach out to somebody and say, hey, I have this question for you, but I really need to know in like 2 days, or else I lose something. So if you start putting pressure on people, you're going to lose that magic hook. It's going to peel off the wall and you're going to ruin the drywall. You're going to have a lot of spackling to do because you're forcing them to do something. And that's that kind of icky feeling you were talking about. Where you're like, it's a low price. I'm excited. I got my flexible plan in place. I'm really comfortable with the person who's telling me this, but something doesn't seem right and I'm going to back away. So you really need to make sure the person, doesn't have this extra pressure. They just understand that, hey, let's talk sooner than later.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I love your story about the magic hooks. That's incredible because you are a builder and a contractor and a construction person who does all these amazing projects. And I feel like magic hooks would be really helpful. In fact, I feel like I should actually get them myself for a lot of different things. But I love that concept, the two concepts, and when it really works and why we are doing this and why we feel this whole concept is so important. It is really magical when you're able to create this relationship with somebody and you're able to really have somebody in your life that can be helpful and support you in your career. So it's worth, I think, this, sometimes maybe uncomfortable pitch to people. And it's it can be magic, and I love how you connected it back to it being the magic hook and having a reasonable time frame, but not going over the top, because we all know too, Jimmy, you've probably had this too, where you've kind of been in a position where somebody is like, you're just, the timing's off. Either they're reaching out to
Mm-hmm.
you and they only have a certain time and they're going away and you're going away, and then before you know it, it kind of drops. And sometimes it gets picked back up and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you run into that person again a couple years later and you realize the timing just wasn't right then. And then it picks up again another time. But I think that's really key, is just being really reasonable with your timing. Don't go on forever, but don't come on too much high pressure.
Exactly. And I mean, QVC just has made this a science. They really are the best pitch people, as we said, because they get a lot of reps. But even some simple things that just like crack me up. So of course, I'm churning through YouTube on my stationary bike, not purchased from QVC. Love this bike. Who knows where I got it? And I'm watching along, and this host goes, I'm not a very good liar, so it has to be the right product. I'm like, okay, where is this going? The host continues. Now we all have a sponge in our kitchen, and you probably don't have a scrub daddy unless you have this smiley faced scrub daddy in your kitchen. But using this product, it's so good I can actually peel a carrot. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe how I have no desire for like a steel wool type sponge. Let alone do I want to use a sponge to peel a carrot. But now I'm just intrigued that I can do some of my vegetable work at night with a smile on my sponge. You know, I,
Well, that makes me think too, when you were talking about the shark. I mean, talking about the sharks, man, Lori Grenier, that woman, the queen of QVC. I
oh
mean,
yeah,
she
Shark Tank.
really knows how to just get those products, talk about the person who makes you feel super comfortable, your best friend ever. You guys can go out for Cosmos and have, maybe not, I don't know if you feel that way. I do about her. I'd love her to be
Uh,
my shark mentor if I was going to have a
I
shark
always
mentor.
thought that Lori would be more of like a chocolatini, personally.
I think she's probably both. I think you can kind of start with the, Cosmo and then evolve into Chocolatinis, and that goes on. But she is, yeah. I mean, the Scrub Daddy is like her, products made her billions of dollars. It's amazing, and you wouldn't have known about it. And then it's just the way that they really sell you on it, and they convince you of the value that what they're selling brings to you. And I think that really goes back to what we're talking about here, is how do you really sell the value of what you bring into this relationship? And what we're offering are some ways to make it a very relaxed but yet confident outreach, whereas QVC tends to be just straight confidence. Um, I think that's really what we're talking about here, is really pitching your value in
Totally.
convenience
Remember, QVC stands for
and quality.
quality, value, convenience. You're key. QVC, you're key. It's just fascinating. They're such a good, strong business. The people that have come off the show, I love how you mentioned Lori Grenier. She is so sharp on Shark Tank. I love listening to her. And even just if you Google them right now, they come up with YouTubes with only like 55 views because it was the show produced last hour. Like their marketing funnel is totally flipped. They're just really good at everything they do. And I think like that's some of like that practice. Like you got to practice this. Don't think your first pitch is going to be your best pitch to somebody. So if here's another bonus symbol, bonus tip. If you know that you're going to reach out to, let's say, a sales manager somewhere because you want to be selling them some kind of product. Or I'm sorry, let's say you were reaching out to an IT manager somewhere because you want to sell them a certain product. Well, you probably don't want to reach out to that person first. Start with other pitches. Start getting better at your pitch and feeling more comfortable, getting feedback, having small successes for confidence, and then start reaching up to, quote unquote, higher value folks to pitch to. Because I think that can really help people. If you're feeling comfortable with yourself, you're much more likely to give that sense of comfort, symbol number one, to the person you're reaching out to.
I love this, and I feel like I hadn't even thought of QVC as actually such a symbol, not only for what we're talking about, but it really is for a lot of things potentially that you're interested in having, in life, right? It's like probably don't want to approach a romantic partner quite in the same, aggressive, but maybe there's some feelings about that. But definitely the same for business development is how do you really use that pitch and use it kind of in the right way. I really feel excited about spending more time watching QVC, not buying anything. It's very hypnotic. That's the other thing about QVC. They say the same things over and over again. So you can just, kind of let your mind take a little vacation, and you can relax and look at, the fabulous fall foliage.
Totally. I mean, yeah, in a way, QVC is effectively the, kind of, gender role TV show of the male Sunday morning football show where all the hosts are sitting there jamming about something. In football, it's old guys talking about younger guys hitting each other. In QVC, it's older people talking about younger people wearing different kind of clothes and buying scrub daddies or whatever. But I think a great summary of a pitch is actually a sports quote as well. So it's this quote from Michael Jordan, where Michael Jordan says, "You will miss 100% of the shots you don't take." So I think if we can give a recommendation to some of our augmenters out there, it's go out there and give it a try. Be respectful, try to build comfort and when you reach out, be flexible, and of course, give that magic hook.
The magic hook. I love it. That is the one thing I'm gonna buy on QVC, Jimmy. I'm gonna let you know how it goes.
Great. Well, we should sign off so we can do some shopping.
I'll see you on the treadmill.
Okay. Great. And we'll see all of you next week with America's favorite food scientist, the Colonel, the TV personality extraordinaire himself, Dr. Taylor Wallace. We will plunge deeper and feel more comfortable within the sometimes murky waters of how to say hello to somebody new and remain true to your authentic self. If you want to help Julie and Jimmy in our mentoring journey, then please subscribe. because we all should ask for help. Big time thank you to our producer, Erica Samus. See you soon.